Hey guys, today's BLG is knowledge. And knowledge does not mean your IQ score or how smart you are or how many things you can recite from the back of your head. It means brain stimulation. So it means working our brains, right? We talk a lot about our bodies and how to do the proper workouts or stimulus, how to recover, how to nourish our body, but it's not very often that we talk about doing the same thing with our brain. So what controls, what's in between the ears controls the rest of your body, right? So it's very important that we get that taken care of as well. And we're gonna talk about many of the reasons why that's important. But first I wanna talk about this thing that I have that maybe you've seen when I post. I try to hashtag this feel, think, move, which is a little mantra that I have. That's one of those things every day I try to do something for each of these. So every day I try to do something that makes me feel a certain way, like bring some sort of emotion, positive, negative, that's fine. Every day I try to do something that makes me think, makes me learn, challenges my thought process. And then every day I try to move my body in a purposeful way. These are kind of like a little mantra, like if you've ever seen the Jimmy V speech where he talks about every day you should laugh, every day you should think, every day you should cry. And he says, if you do that every day, that's a hell of a life. When you think about this, right, there are many BLGs that can affect your feel. So sunshine might affect how you feel, your breath may affect how you feel, your relationships might affect how you feel. Many BLGs affect your move, right? Obviously movement is one of them. Sunshine can help if you're walking outside. Sleep affects the move because of how you feel after a good night's sleep or how crappy you feel after a bad night of sleep. When it comes to the think, this is the only BLG that really deals with it. So this is how important this BLG is. This by itself does everything here with the think. So what I mean, like I said, is the brain stimulation, right? Get your brain working, nourishing your brain, nourishing your thought processes. We talked about a while ago in the lifespan versus health span video about how neurological diseases are one of the top killers in the US, right? So things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. Also, one thing that it's a thing that affects your health span quite a bit. And we know that little things that challenge your brain have a positive effect on how you feel, right, neurologically. So there are many research that talk about how making puzzles or learning a new language or learning how to play an instrument, right, all those activities can delay neurological diseases because of how it forces your brain to challenge yourself, just like workouts challenge your muscle and then it grows stronger. The knowledge, right, the BLG knowledge can also impact your quality of your life. If most of us, right, have jobs that require us to know certain information, certain material, by increasing our knowledge, especially if it's targeted to that, right, it can improve our career, can create new ceilings for what we are capable of career-wise, and by default financially. And also it can help you with a social presence, right? Especially if you're in this profession that we have, that you have to deal with people, right? Knowing a lot about different topics can positively influence the social presence. You can create conversations with people that are on topics that they like. You can make yourself as an expert of whatever topic if you have knowledge of those things. So it can very much improve your quality of life if it's something that you work on. Even when it comes to non-cognitive activities, right? So things that you don't really have to think much about. Usually we think about activities that are physical. The brain controls what we do. So we talked about how what's in between the ears controls what's beneath the ears. What brain says, body does. This is where this little chart comes in. So you might have seen this, I forget what it's called. It's something called like the competency chart. For every activity that you do, for every activity that you start, we all start here, right? We are unconsciously incompetent. That means we don't know what we don't know. If you're gonna learn a new language, right, you don't know, you might see some letters stuck together, but you don't know what that is. And there are words that you've never seen before, especially if it's a language like Russian or Chinese or Japanese. There are symbols they've never seen before. You don't even know that those exist. Once we spend some time here and get familiarized with things, we move into this quadrant, which is we're consciously incompetent. I know that I don't know these things, right? So now you start to recognize whatever it is, right? If it's a martial art, you can recognize what a jab is, or what a straight is, or what a cross is, but maybe you don't really know how to do it, right? You don't know all the processes that are involved with that. You know what the letters sound like, but you don't know what they sound like when they put together in a word. After spend some time in consciously incompetent, we move to consciously competent. So now we know what it is, we know how to do it, we know how to express it, but it takes some thought. It takes some sort of process in our head to put it together, right? So a lot of us speak multiple languages. So when we create a sentence, right, especially when we're in this phase, we think about the exact sentence in our head, we put it together, and then we say it, right? So this is the conscious competent. Ideally, eventually, we want to move into this unconscious competent, which is we don't even have to think about it, we just do, right? So the best people, the best athletes, the best musicians, the best actors, right? They're more often in this quadrant. They don't need to think about where does my hand go on the guitar, what does the chord look like. They just play it by instinct, right? When you become fluent in a language, you don't have to translate things. You just say it because you know that's how it supposed to be. When you are practicing a martial art, you just do the movement. You don't have to think, where does my left foot go? Where does my right foot go? What position should I look like? To move from one quadrant to the next, the brain must be involved, right? You have to think about what you're doing. You have to think about what are the steps. You have to think about, so even on activities that are non-cognitive, that we think about non-cognitive, right? This process still takes place. And then the more connections you have formed, the more things that you've done where you have to go from this to this to this to this, the easier it is to form new ones. So you always have those people you know that are always good at sports, right? That's because they've gone through this process so many times that there are so many connections that it becomes easier to go from this to this to this to this. So the more languages you learn, the more instruments you play, and the more martial arts you do, the more puzzles you make, the process of going through this becomes easier and easier. I want you to notice that we haven't really talked about how smart you are, where your IQ is, right? All we're talking about is the process of learning something, process of challenging your brain, the process of stimulating your brain. There are three main paths of growth when it comes to knowledge. One of them is learning. So when we take this process, we're learning something new. So for example, languages, learning new languages, learning new sports, advanced subjects. So if you want to grab a book on astrophysics or chemistry, something that is challenging, that you definitely hear, unconscious, incompetent. There's many things that you don't even know. There's names that you've never heard before. That would fall under advanced subjects. The next one is hobbies, right? So when we think about hobbies, it's more about perfecting an art. Art is one of them. So painting, drawing, music is another one. Playing an instrument, crafts, or building things, right? So anything that deals with your expertise, your experience around something would be under hobbies. And then finally we have mental activities, right? These two can have some sort of physical demand on you. These are mostly straight up mental activities. One of my favorite things, which is play chess, right, is one of them. Puzzles or crosswords is another one of them. So these are things that are straight up challenging the process of learning, unlearning new things. And then the final thing I want to talk about is leave you with this question. Most of us, when we meet, we talk about what are goals you have, right? What are movements you want to get better at? What is the body composition you want to have? All these things that are inside the gym or physical goals. But we rarely talk about things that are for mental proficiency. So what are your goals? What is something that you want to learn more about? And I think this is something that is very important that we never lose, right? We never lose the ability and the desire to learn new things. So this is the question I want to leave with, and send me a message telling me what it is that you want to work on.